Welcome to the Postcards from Palisade podcast. I'm Lisa McNamara. Palisade is most famous for its peaches, but there's so much more happening in our little town. Join me as I chat with our community members to hear about how they're making Palisade a great place to live and visit. Today we're going behind the scenes at Colorado's largest wine producer, Carboy Winery. Carboy Winery has 4 locations, including, obviously, the best one in Palisade. Barbie Graham, tasting room manager at Carboy Winery at Mount Garfield Estates in Palisade, and sales and hospitality manager for the company globally, joins me to chat about how Carboy is making wine delicious, fun, and sustainable. Barbie and I also chat about why she'd rather live and work in Colorado than California, how she was cured of wine snobbery, and how she tries to pass along that gift to others, about the variety of events that Carboy hosts at their Palisade location, and lots more. I spoke with Barbie right before the May 24th Bubbles and Blues kickoff of the Carboy concert series, so if you didn't get to that show, you missed out. But there's still 3 more shows upcoming, 1 in June and 2 in October. You can find more info about those shows, and buy tickets, at carboywinery.com. Stay tuned for a fun dive into a tank of Colorado wine on today's postcard from Palisade. Thank you again so much for coming in and speaking with me today.
Of course. Yeah, so my name is Barbie Graham. I am the tasting room manager at the Palisade location of Carboy Winery. I'm also the sales and hospitality manager for the company globally.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, so 2 jobs.
Yeah,
at least.
At least 2 jobs, yeah. We wear a lot of different hats in this industry in general, you know?
Yeah. So tell me about your background. How did you get into the industry and what brought you to Carboy?
So I've been working in food and beverage for over 20 years. I started out working as a hostess in restaurants when I was 13, and then just kind of stuck with it, got me through college, got me through graduate school, and then I ended up wanting to stay with it. I initially thought I wanted to go into academia, and then after finishing school, realized that was not what I wanted to do. So then I started diving more into the wine side of things, got my quartermaster sommelier certified sommelier, and then WSET level 3, and was doing somm stuff on the floor, and working as a buyer for some prominent wine programs. Then I managed Bin 707 Food Bar for several years. And then I moved back to California, which is where I'm from. And I was doing some consulting, and while I was out there, the Carboy team called me and asked me if I wanted to move back to Colorado and manage the Palisade location. I peripherally have known Tyzok, our lead winemaker, for a really long time. He also lived in California while I was out there and would come into places that I worked at. And then I met their whole investment team while I was working at Bin 707. They were scouting properties, and they came in several times, and one of their investors kind of threw my name into the hat when they were looking for a new manager. And it was just divine timing. It worked out perfectly. If they had called me a week earlier, I would have been so swamped with my consulting gig that I would not have answered. If they had called me a week later, I would have already signed the contract for my next consulting project. And so it was just the right timing. And I got out here in 2 weeks from when they called me and just dove right in.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And yeah, just the thing about kind of timing and how it works out in your life is sometimes so interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely not in my plan to move back to Colorado at the time. I was really happy with what I was doing in California, and my ex, who I was with, wanted to stay in California, but it was just too good to be true. And when I came out here and I saw the production facility that they built at Palisade, that was really pushed me to want to do it, because their sparkling wine production facility is an investment not just in Carboy, but in the entire AVA wine country out here. And I love this region, and I was I want to be a part of this. This is really cool what they're doing. So I'm really glad I came back.
You already touched on this a little bit already, but what makes Carboy Winery unique?
I mean, for me, there's so many things that make it unique. I think one of the things that really drew me towards it is I love this area. I love the Grand Valley, I love Grand Junction, I love Palisade, and same with when I was at Bin 707 working for Josh Nirenberg. He really had a lot of vision of what he sees this whole area moving towards and kind of changing the cultural landscape. And I feel like Carboy embraces that on a statewide level of trying to like, Colorado is like a beer state. And I feel like Carboy's trying to make people see it as a wine state. And that's something I really appreciate, especially coming from, I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, California, and I lived in the Bay Area for a long time before I came out here. And I've seen firsthand how much wine country and food and beverage can shape the culture of a place and create like long-lasting, sustainable economy and jobs. And it's tourism, but it's different than just like coming through and taking a picture. It's like people want to stay for multiple days. They want to come and hang out, and it's craft, you know. Wine in general is like art, science, craft, farming, agriculture, all these things combined. And I think Carboy, they have a really unique business methodology as well as investment in the area out here. So they started as negociants and were purchasing grapes, and their Littleton location was the first location. And they were restaurateurs, which also kind of speaks to me because I come from the restaurant background. And then they expanded to Breckenridge and Denver, and then we're looking to purchase vines in Palisade. And I remember working at Ben 707, you know, I already knew a lot of the winemakers out here, a lot of people growing grapes out here through our wine program there. And people were like a little afraid of Carboy coming to town. They're like, oh, like they're the big boys. They're going to buy all the grapes. We're not going to be able to like, you know, we're not going to be able to have a hold on it, which is kind of ironic because comparative to like a California winery, we're very, very micro or tiny.
For Colorado, though.
For Colorado, we are the biggest winery in Colorado. You kind of have to have some gumption to like be the big boys and to be the ones that are like, we're going to be the biggest and we're also going to be the best. We're not trying to be watered down product or something that's like not high quality. Like the goal is to be the first wine that people taste that's a Colorado wine, so that when people try it, it's really good, and that motivates them to come out to wine country, to go to all the other wineries, spend their money at places that don't have the same ability to market and the same diversified business perspective that Carboy has. And I think that's really cool. And then when I saw, like I said, when I saw the production facility, that really just blew my mind, because I had been to that Mount Garfield Estates location when it was Mount Garfield Winery. And, you know, they didn't have the patio, they didn't have the vines, they didn't have the production facility. It was very minimal compared to what it is now. So just seeing the investment was already, I was like, wow, they're really like putting their money where their mouth is. But the production facility is the biggest Charmat sparkling wine production facility in the U.S. outside of California, which is awesome. And it really speaks to our terroir out here. Like, we know we can reliably grow a lot of New World cultivars, right? Hybrid grapes, modern varieties. And modern variety grapes tend to produce high acidity, very perfumey wine, which may not be stellar if you're going for a single varietal still wine. It could be. We do some like that are really good, but it's excellent for sparkling wine base, because the way the sparkling wine is made, you want that initial fermentation to be like in the 10 to 11% alcohol range and high acidity, because you're adding in another fermentation to that. And perfuminess works really well in bubbly wine. So it's like speaking to what does well here and what grows well here. And I think that for me is really cool, because I think one of the things that's challenging about the wine industry is that it is so bound by tradition that it can often be exclusivist. And to be in a place, in a region where we can afford to be experimental, right? We're not Napa, where everyone's like, where's my 16% Cabernet Sauvignon? Like, we can produce whatever wine we want, and people are just so shocked to find out that we have wine here that they're willing to give it a try. And so to then say, okay, how can we do this in a way that's works with the environment that we have? It's very unique AVA. We have very different benefits and challenges to places like California as far as like how we grow grapes. And to say, okay, like, how can we fit our production into what works out here? Let's build a sparkling wine facility. Like, my mind was blown. And then to do that, we also have a bottling line where you have to have a specific type of line to counter pressure the bottles when you have bubbles already in the wine. And the facility is big enough to where we can produce sparkling wine for other people. We can make way more wine than we can sell, which affords us the opportunity to help our friends and neighbors here who do not have the capital to invest in building a facility like that. And that's amazing. Like, if people want to do high quality sparkling wine, we can do that for them. And we can charge them less than you would be able to buy bulk bottles from California, which is, you know, I think a lot of people think of wine like if it has your label on it, that means you made it. That is far from the case. Most people are purchasing wine that's already made and putting their label on it for things like bubbly. But we can do it with their fruit, which is, I don't know, it's just so cool. Like, it's so awesome. And then also, I think wine is a wasteful industry, and it's also an industry of indulgence, right? Like, it's not the kind of thing, nobody needs wine. I mean, I need wine. My soul needs wine. But
we can live without it.
Yeah,
like, maybe we
can
would enjoy life without it, but you can be alive.
Yeah, and like the climate has changed a lot since I got into the industry, and a lot of new challenges are presented by that. And I think Carboy is like really walking the talk when it comes to sustainability, and when it comes to like how can we make wine in a way that benefits and doesn't detract from all the things everybody in Colorado cares about, right? We love the outdoors, we love wild spaces, we want to keep the water sources going. Like, we have all these things that we care about that if you're in an industry that's waste-based, it's kind of challenging. And so, they're 1% for the Planet members. They are members of Zero Food Print, which takes 1% added to every tasting room check and donates it to this nonprofit that supplies compost to farms. So we've helped hundreds of farms get compost. Even some of our other partner wineries in Colorado get compost. We have a project with Protect Our Rivers, doing a wine for them, which they do a lot of cleanup, especially on the South Platte near our Littleton location. And then we have a lot of sustainability measures in the vineyard. We have cover crop that imparts nitrogen and phosphorus in the soil. It keeps the soil a lot cooler and retains the water in it. We have microspray irrigation. So we only water the vines for 5 hours every 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
That is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say 5 hours every day.
Yeah. That's what, I mean, from at my house, how much I have to irrigate, it's crazy that's how little we have to water.
Wow,
and I mean,
cool.
That is, you do want grapes to be a little stressed. You want them to have to reach their vines way down to pull up all those mineral content from the soil. But it's just really impressive to me how little they have to do. And we are not organically certified, but we use organic inputs in the field, which is awesome. And then we also have our tap wine program. So most of the carbon footprint from wine, more than 50% of the carbon footprint from wine, is from the manufacturing and shipping of bottles. The glass weighs as much as the wine inside of it. And you can't sanitize, reuse glass. You can do that for liquor and beer, but for some reason in wine that's against the law. Some crazy glass lobbyist must have really pushed for that. So we have a tap wine program. All of our locations have glycol chilled bright tanks. We feed them with argon so that it prevents them from getting oxidized. Then we ship the wine in totes out to each location, so we don't have to manufacture and ship all these bottles. So we've saved over 1 million bottles from production by doing that. And we have growler programs. You can fill your growler up and bring the growler back, and it's I don't know, it's really cool. I've never been to any other winery that does something like that, and it's really cool to be a part of it.
And I remember back when Carboy started in the Front Range, about 10-ish years ago.
Yeah, almost 9 years ago, 2016.
9 years ago, and it was really revolutionary to have a high-quality wine served on tap out of a keg, quote-unquote keg. That was just, and to be able to buy wine in a refillable growler, that was such a new concept at the time, and everybody was talking about it. And I think now it's maybe become a little bit more, it's been long enough, and you've proven the success of that method and the fact that you can have high-quality wine like that. Maybe it's less revolutionary or wild now, but do you still deal with any wine snobbery from people about, if you're pouring them a wine out of the tap versus a bottle?
Yes.
Do you still get that? And then how do you deal with that?
We definitely do. There will always, wine is it invites snobs, it rewards snobbery. And I think also part of wine is status. And so people want the status of a 750 milliliter bottle with a real cork in it. And so part of it is talking about, I always just share, one of the reasons we did this is because Craig Jones, he got growlers wine off tap in Italy. I was oh, this is so cool. He's our main investor and he's amazing. He does so much for the company. And so that was something that he brought back. And so it is not an American-born idea or a value-based product-born idea. It is a craft, high-quality product idea. And then I always just take people back and show them that what the wine lives in when it's on tap. Because I think a lot of people are expecting like a 6-stall keg, like you'd see it like at your house. Yeah. But we have like 225-gallon bright tanks, and they're chilled with glycol and fed with argon, which means, if you open a bottle of wine, whether you're at your house or in a restaurant or in a tasting room, and you just put the cork in that and then put it in the fridge or leave it on the counter, 2-3 days go by, that wine's going to be oxidized. It's not going to taste the same as it did when you opened it. Off the tap, other than the little amount that's in the line, which is exposed to oxygen, which we just pour off at the beginning of each shift so that we just pour it and dump it, everything is completely untouched. So the wine at the top of that tank is going to taste the same as the wine at the bottom of that tank. And then when you talk about the sustainability impact of it, most people, all of us, we are so detached from the products that we enjoy. Like, we just don't know what goes into it. And when you start to realize, like, oh wait, the glass weighs the same as if not more than the wine inside of it, and we're putting stuff on trucks and shipping it, like, that's a massive carbon impact. And if we're going to be able to continue to drink wine, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we all collectively in the industry and as consumers have to start making shifts to wine that is more sustainable, because the more carbon in the atmosphere, the hotter the atmosphere gets. The more challenging it is to grow wine. And we really see that in this area. It is so hot here. We have much less annual precipitation and much higher temperatures than we did like 20 years ago. When you're sitting outside and it's 105 degrees, you're like, see, it's hot out. Don't you want to help the planet?
Exactly.
And then also just letting people taste. I always think, especially in Colorado, really have to let your palate speak. Because I know as a wine buyer for some high-profile wine programs in California, I probably would not have taken a tasting of Colorado wine or of New World cultivars. I would have been like, I don't want to taste hybrids, and I'm not trying anything from Colorado. Because I was a wine snob, and because I was in this culture that had a very limited perspective of like where good wine comes from. And that's typical of, the premier wine regions in the United States and the world over. But when you actually taste it, you're like, oh, this is really good. And you're like, yeah, believe it or not, like, this is Traminette. You've never heard of it, right? You're like, why is this so good? Like, I think that's like the fun of modern wine and of regional wine and of accessibility in wine. Like, getting wine out of this, like, old white person category that it's always been in, and like opening it up and being like, it doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be like some fancy pinky up thing. You can drink it out of any glass that you want to drink it out of. And just like, if it tastes good, drink it. Like, if you like it, drink it. But it is a challenge.
So you're a recovered wine snob.
I'm totally a recovered wine snob, yes.
That's awesome. That kind of leads into, I think, one of the interviews. One of the things that you said was that Carboy's mission is to open wine up to the widest audience that you could, or that you can. So
Absolutely.
How do you do that? How do you make it appealing to more than just the old wine snobs?
I mean, I think first of all, like, the level of hospitality that you get when you walk into our tasting room, in my experience in wine, there's a lot of places that you go in and everyone kind of fits that same generic category. You walk into our tasting room and like, people have tattoos. We've got like different colors of hair. We've got piercings. We've got like, this is not a place where you have to like fit a certain mold to work with us. And it's also just being really welcoming and recognizing that, especially out here in Palisade, and this is different at every location because our locations are all in different neighborhoods. We have different demographics that go in. But in Palisade, this is a wine region where a lot of people, we are the first winery that people have ever been to before. Like, they're coming out here on a bachelorette trip and they're 22 and they've never had wine. And like, I had someone say, oh, I don't really ever drink wine. And I was like, oh, what do you like to drink? She was like, well, I love champagne. And I was like, well, you might not know this, but like, champagne is actually wine. Like, it's like, that's a lot of the level of people that we're interacting with. And so just being like super non-judgmental, you don't have to know anything about wine to enjoy it. And recognizing that no one walks into a brewery and is like, oh my God, I really wish I knew more about beer. Like, that's literally how people feel when they walk into a winery. They already feel, like, ashamed of their lack of knowledge before they even get up to the counter. Sure. And so just being super recognizing of that. I mean, like, no, like, this is a place where you can just taste whatever you want, enjoy yourself. And then I think also creating experiences besides just wine, right? Because if you're like, okay, I'm going to go listen to a band, or I'm going to go do a paint and sip class, or I'm going to go to yoga, then you can get in without that feeling of, like, oh, I'm going to be, you know, asked what I taste in this wine. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to be judged for my knowledge or lack thereof. It's like, if you're going for a full experience, then it makes it a little easier. Like, there's not as much of a barrier of entry.
Sure.
Or you can just drink a wine slushie.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah, right.
There's always that. Like,
yeah, like, the events are not all centered around wine. It's like, right. Wine is sort of the side benefit of doing this thing.
And that's, like, I think especially that was the other thing, other than being so impressed with the production facility when I came out here, that it really stood out to me. It was just the space at the Palisade location is, I mean, it's first of all stunningly gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Like, it's hard to even conceive of a more beautiful space to show up to work. It's like gorgeous views and it's just stunning. Yeah. And then also the space, it's like, it's a venue. When I first started with the company, they were really new to this location. They were just over their second year there, or no, just over their first year. April 22 they opened, so they were like a year and a couple months into being Carboy at that location. And, you know, they'd been turning on the open sign and welcoming people in, but they hadn't really been putting the space to full use. And I mean, I walked out and saw the back and I was like, okay, this is a venue at a winery, not a winery with a venue. Like, it is primarily a space to go experience things while you're drinking wine, as opposed to primarily a space where you're drinking wine. It's got more potential for so many things that are not wine related, that bring in people from all walks of life, and then by doing that, break down the barriers of who thinks they fit in a winery.
I love that. Just going back to winemaking really quick before we jump over to events. So, and I think this is a positive thing, but to me, the number of wines that Carboy makes is almost overwhelming, because there are so many different varieties and there's so many sparkling wines, and it's like such a treat to me. To number one, everybody is always so friendly when we show up, and the space is amazing, and it's like one of my favorite places to hang out, especially on Sunday afternoons.
Yeah, I know, you're part of Sunday crew.
Yeah, but with that number of wines, I mean, there are so many. What tend to stand out as some of the fan favorites, or like which ones tend to rise to be more popular?
It really depends on the season. You know, wine is seasonal, but our on season is summertime, April to November. And so definitely sparkling wine is our top sellers. Sparkling, the Grand Brut Rosé, which I know you've had before, the Blanc de Blanc, those are like far and away the biggest sellers. I think a big part of that is that it is hot. People want something easy and fun and relaxing. And I think also maybe because I love bubbles, so I always force people to try the bubbles.
And they're so good.
They're so good. Yeah. And then also some of the things that we're more known for that are not sparkling, I would say Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Franc is one of the better known varietals in the valley in general, so people tend to ask for that and seek it out. We also do really well in whites with our Riesling is very popular, our Blanco white blend, which is a blend of all Colorado fruit. Sauvignon Blanc always sells. Sauvignon Blanc is nationwide the most selling white wine, most consumed white wine, so that sells. And then things that have had some accolades. So our Terraldigo won Governor's Cup 2 times, so people often ask for that. And then we have some standouts for New World cultivars, modern variety grapes. Our Chamberson is really popular, which is one of the New World cultivars, and that's a red, dry, single varietal hybrid grape, which is unusual and surprising for me to see like how popular it is. But that's a wine, as soon as we get on the shelf, people come in and they're like, I'm gonna buy a case, and then like 2 months later it's gone. And I mean, it really does change. It also depends on what our staff likes. We are very privileged to have a lot of wine training and a lot of people in the company that have, you know, letters after their name regarding wine, which is awesome. Kellen Brewer, who does all the training education for the company, comes out several times a year and does sensory trainings with our team. You know, I have a lot of background in tasting and training on wine, so we get to really dive deep into like what our team likes and then help push the things that we know we enjoy for people to try. And the beauty of wine over other types of beverage is like you can just taste as many as you want. It's like going to like a gelato store, you know? Like, I don't even care if you buy a glass, you should just taste it. Like, tasting wine is one of the rare pleasures in life. Like, taste all the wine. And so it really lets people kind of experiment and like see what they like. Mm-hmm. And it is an overwhelming amount. But that's also one of the privileges of being in Colorado. You know, you go wine tasting in Willamette Valley, you're gonna, every place you go, you're gonna taste like 6 Pinot Noirs, which is fine. I love Pinot Noir, but that's just how it is. You go to Napa, you're like Cabernet, Chardonnay, you know, like, you're not gonna get anything else other than that. And out here, one of the cool things about Colorado wine country is we have tons and tons of different fruit. In the 16-acre plot that we have at the Mount Garfield Estate location, we have Albarino, Giraldo, Syrah, Cab Franc, Treminette, some others I'm sure that I can't remember right now. And then we have like another 16 acres that's all New World cultivars. I mean, we probably have, you know, more than 15 types of grapes that we just are fruit that we grow. And so it definitely, sparkling wine dominates. I think that's also bachelorette party syndrome. We are a bachelorette party mecca. And who doesn't want sparkling rosé when you're celebrating your friend getting married?
Absolutely.
But I think, we're the bubbles people.
And also what helps with that too, I think, is producing it the way that you do in the Charmat method. It helps it be more affordable.
Absolutely.
So I think, I mean, I am all for champagne style produced wines, aging in the bottle and whatever, but they're so much more expensive. Yeah. And so it is a treat to see you can get a really great tasting, like quality bottle of bubbles for not that much money. Yeah.
$34 you get a bottle of bubbles. Other places you go, they're $19 a glass for Method Champenois. Right. You know, it's a huge price difference. And it also, for me, I do love champagne, but I definitely drink more Charmat Method wine, whether it's Carboy wine or Prosecco. It tends to be like a little bit crisper, a little bit lighter, a little bit less yeasty, which for my palate and for my susceptibility to headaches works better for my body. And it's, you know, comparative to doing forced carbonation, which there are other people out here that do that. It's not, forced carbonation is not a bad thing, but the bubbles are a lot bigger and you really have to commit to finishing that bottle. Like if you don't finish the bottle, it's going to be flat. It's like a can of Coke.
It's still wide.
Yeah, exactly. But Charmat, it's like you can put the little cap thing on it and put it in the fridge and it'll be good for a few days. And it's, you know, I think the affordability part of it is definitely a big thing. And just ease of drinking. Like we finally in wine, not just at Carboy, but in general in wine culture, have gotten out of the suckling era of really big, really chewy tannic reds. You know, it used to be that wine reviewers and wine writers and wine judges led the palate of America. And now we're in this era, which is really pushed by the younger drinking generation, which is not typical in wine. Wine is typically driven by older drinkers. Most people don't even get into wine until they're like in their 30s. But people now are looking for something that just genuinely tastes good and it's like fun on the palate. And I think, you know, the rise of sparkling water and like you're drinking a LaCroix right now. Who doesn't drink bubbly water, you know? And like I think beer drinkers transitioning into wine lean into sparkling. And sparkling wine nationwide is in contraction. Sparkling wine is the only category of wine that's still in a growth phase. And I think that just speaks to like what people are enjoying right now. Yeah. You know? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is sort of a random question, but is there anything behind, so when Carboy did purchase the Mount Garfield Estate, they kept the name Carboy Winery at Mount Garfield Estate. Was there anything behind keeping that name and honoring it instead of just retiring it and calling it Carboy Winery Palisade?
Yeah, I love that you asked that because people ask it and also get confused about it all the time because of Google Maps and like the market, the branding of it. So Mount Garfield Estate is the name of the vineyards. So they're in wine, generally speaking. Vineyards, they usually have their own name, and the better fruit you can cultivate, the higher price point you can then sell that fruit for and charge for your wine. Always, you know, there's this phrase people like to say, if you want to make a little bit of money in wine, invest a lot. Farming grapes is a money-losing industry, especially here in Colorado. If you're looking at places like Napa, a ton of grapes goes for around $10,000 to $12,000. If you're looking at places like the Grand Valley AVA, a ton of grapes goes for maybe $1,500 to $2,000. Oh, wow. So we literally are not able to recoup the amount of money that we put into growing the grapes by selling them.
Like a ton, how much would a ton be, like acreage-wise? Like
I wish I could answer that question better. That would be a James question. Okay. I don't farm the grapes. I do everything in the front. James does all the backup stuff. I mean, I think we are probably getting 2 to 3 tons an acre. That would be a guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not a lot of money.
No. Oh no. Vineyards are never in the black. They're ever out here. I don't know of anyone that is, and that's one of the reasons that like after that bad freeze in 2020, people just didn't replant grapes. They planted peaches. Peaches are the cash crop out here. You just can't really make money on grapes. You just can't recoup the amount that it takes to grow it. And so one of the ways that down the road, because everything in wine is like very future oriented, right? Like you plant vines and you're not going to be able to get a viable harvest off those vines for 3 years. And then if you're making a red, it's going to go in a barrel for a couple years and then in the bottle for another couple years. So you're looking like 6-7 years down the road minimum until you're going to see a return on that farming. As far as selling grapes goes, though, vineyards that have well-known names, like a good example would be like Emeritus Vineyards in California. They are really well-known Pinot Noir place. People will pay for grapes that are from vineyards that are known to have quality fruit. So maintaining, the name of your vineyard, like at Mount Garfield Estates, if we do, let us pray, get to a point where we know that we are reliably getting really good fruit off of those vines every year. And we, like everyone else in the Grand Valley, both use our own grapes for production. We buy grapes from our neighbors and we sell grapes to our neighbors. The Grand Valley produces 85% of the grapes grown in Colorado. And I mean, there's like 200 something wineries in Colorado and only 30 in the Grand Valley. So we are exporting a lot of our grapes to other Colorado wineries in general in this AVA. And so having a vineyard name that has really good fruit is a part of it, and paying homage not just to the winery that was there before us, but to Mount Garfield. Trying to link together the standout things that make the Grand Valley AVA special, because when you are in a regional wine country, like people in wine professionals, we don't exist to them, right? Like they don't know that we exist. And people come out here, and I remember when I first moved out here, and people were like, Mount Garfield, and I was kind of like, is that a mountain? It doesn't look like it's like kind of like a bump, you know? It's like, not really like a mountain, but it's like claiming these things and being like, you know, when you're sitting on the patio at Carboy, you are staring at Mount Garfield and like paying honor to like, this is our AVA, this is what we have to offer. It is not well known. It is niche. It is regional. It is small. It is barely existent, and yet we are really proud of it. And we're doing things that are really awesome and different, and we want people to know. We're like, you're at Mount Garfield Estates. And yes, it's Carboy. And all of our locations also have different identities. We like to put at Mount Garfield Estates so that people know we are in the vines. We are where the grapes are grown. I was at this training put on by Cave, our local nonprofit, recently, where they were talking about consumer recognition. I think they said, I'm pretty sure these are the numbers, Palisade peaches have 75% consumer recognition in Colorado. People know peaches come from Palisade. Colorado wine, less than 40%. So people are not, even that live in the state, are not aware that we are growing wine here. And so like the more that we can like lean into that, and when people go to the Carboy website, a lot of people go to Carboy in Denver and Littleton, they don't even know they're at a winery. Right? They think it's like a wine bar or part of the restaurant. So our Littleton location has Angela's Taverna, which is an Italian restaurant at it. And all the time people come in the tasting room like, have you been to Carboy before? No. Oh, and I tell them where it is. Oh, we're like right next to Breckenridge Brewery on South Santa Fe in Littleton. Oh, we go to Angela's once a week. And I'm like, you know where you get wine when you're waiting for your table? That's Carboy. Right next to that is a gigantic production facility and barrelling room where we make all of our still wine. People don't even know it exists. And so trying to like link together each location with its sort of brand identity. We have the Gold Pan Saloon, which we own, which is connected to the Carboy in Breckenridge. We have Opry, which is like a fun, like kind of public market community hub type of space at our Denver location right next to Trader Joe's in Governor's Park. And then we have Mount Garfield Estates in Palisade. They're all very different. I think we're the best because this is where we grow and make the wine.
Absolutely. It feels it feels the most like you would picture, I'm going to a winery, and that's what you would picture.
Yeah, exactly. You're like in the vines.
I don't know if this is still something that y'all do, but the gray water recycling,
Yeah.
Is that something that still happens?
Yeah. Yeah, we recycle all of our gray water.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. It's great. I mean, it's something that, you know, when you live in a place with less than 10 inches of precipitation a year, like, you have to do everything you can. So we recycle our gray water. We're currently in the grant writing phase of getting a grant for solar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, our goal is to cover the top of our production facility with solar panels so that we'll be able to have gray water and solar and just basically be as little energy use as possible.
Yeah.
And then our Littleton location, I think it is silver rated for green buildings for Denver, like their green ratings. So yeah, we're trying to do all the little things that we can.
Switching over to events and all the different events Carboy hosts, we touched on a little bit.
Yes.
But there's a lot.
There's a lot.
And I love that. I always love that. But yeah, you have regular music, food trucks, the weekly Friday events, the Sunday yoga class that you teach.
Yeah.
Is there like a staff favorite event that y'all host that you'll like really enjoy having?
I mean, I'll speak for myself. I don't know. I feel like the staff, as long as it's busy, they're pretty happy. I think as far as our like monthly events go, I love the Pen and the Glass open mic, which is a spoken word open mic that's in collaboration with Western Colorado Writers Forum. They're an amazing group that puts on all types of events for writers locally. And I have an MFA in poetry, and I like wanted to have more outlets for people to showcase their work. And we get like between 20 and 40 people out, like just being super vulnerable, reading their stuff, getting up there and sharing their work. I love that event. I think as far as our annual events go, the concert series are amazing. And I also love our wellness and wine fair. I feel like wine is obviously not a health drink, right? Like we all know that. But comparative to things like liquor or beer, wine tends to be something that people drink when they're going to have like a few drinks. Like people aren't going to be like, yeah, let's go get wasted. Let's pop a bottle of Chardonnay. You know, like those are it's just like a different type of drinking. I feel like they kind of feed into each other in that way. And so for wellness and wine, we have like 24 vendors that are local vendors in fitness, wellness, and personal services that come out. And we do demo classes of like yoga, bar, and Pilates, meditation. And it's just, I like the events where we get to like showcase the kind of cultural offerings that we have here and like add something that doesn't exist in Palisade to the roster, which is also why the concert series is so cool because, you know, there's a lot of people here, a lot of wineries here, I should say, that are doing somewhat of what we're doing on our weekends where we're like featuring local food trucks. We've got our local neighbors and friends playing music, and that's amazing. And we want our local community to be able to be showcased. Like we have live music every Saturday, with food trucks every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then also, there's just not a lot of ways to showcase artists that are not our local friends and neighbors, especially in Palisade. In Junction, you know, we have Las Colonias, we have Mesa Theater.
Right.
Palisade, there's just really not any venues out here for stuff like that.
There's not a big enough venue with like really great sound quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for now there's Carboy.
Yeah, exactly.
and we, you know, we would not have been able to do any of all of these events. These are all 100% homegrown. We literally just went to our team and we're like, what can we collectively do and offer? And I'm a yoga teacher. I love poetry. Like, let's do these things. Like, Clint Richards is our production manager, and he was like, well, like, I love music. Like, let's put on some shows. And so he invested a lot of money into an amazing sound system and uses all of these connections that he has nationwide with all these artists to bring in people that you would otherwise just not see in the Grand Valley. And it's really cool to get some of these bigger artists into Palisade, especially at like a boutique outdoor venue that's like not, I mean, I love Mesa Theater, don't get me wrong, but we are not Mesa Theater. It's a different vibe. It is a very different vibe. And it's so cool to be like under the stars, in the vines, and getting to see like world-class acts, people that have, you know, toured nationally and internationally at this cool little venue where there's like, you're not going to be shoulder to shoulder jammed in with people. Like, we cap it at like 180 tickets, which is, and the amount of space that we have, plenty of room to like set down a blanket, get up and dance, hang out, have it feel relaxed, and get to see amazing shows with great sound quality. It's like something that you know, when we were talking about like, what can we do with this space, James and Clint and I were all like, God, wouldn't this be cool if we could do this? Kind of like, we just kind of selfishly are making things that we want to attend.
That's
and
totally
then just
fair.
hoping that other people want to come too.
Yeah.
And it's been really successful. And like, you know, we've seen, not just with Carboy, but in general, Palisade Wine Country grow more into this, like, let's offer something more than just wine, which is amazing. And since I first moved to the Grand Valley in 2016, we are a world away from where we were then. You know, now there's like something to actually do. There's stuff to go experience. And like the more, I'm a big believer in just like arts and culture being a driver of regional identity. And I think that being able to offer that and to like, and we couldn't do it alone. I just want to say that, like, we have amazing sponsors that partner with us to do this stuff. And without those sponsors, there's no way that we could do this. We just simply cannot afford the quality of artists and the quality of sound that it takes by charging ticket prices. We would just have to, we would have to be charging.
Exactly, keeping the ticket prices reasonable so people can actually afford them.
Yeah, we want our general admission to be under $50 and our VIP to be under $100. And if we're going to do that, we need help to do it from the community. And so it's been amazing to see just like the outpouring of support from people that also want to see these things offered in the community and like want to show up and partake in it. It's been really heartwarming, and it's just cool to see the growth, and then to like see how much the artists enjoy it and how much the crowd enjoys it. It's super rewarding.
So cool. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of making your own fun. And that's like another thing here, like it's related to, you're talking about with wine, you can kind of leave this lack of expectations so we can do whatever we want. Sort of like with events and things here too. It's like if you want to do something, you probably can figure out how to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
People are probably going to be supportive.
Yeah, that's what's been so cool. Like with the open mic thing with Western Colorado Writers Forum, I literally just like emailed Melody Jones, who's the president, and was like, hey, I want to do this. And like 3 days later it was on the calendar. And she comes out every time and like facilitates and hosts. It's amazing, you know? And like our paint and sip person, she's like a local school teacher who's like, no, I'll come once a month and teach a paint and sip class. And like we do hat making with Sarah Moon of Bloom and Brim, and like she's our neighbor, you know? And like that's what's so cool about Palisade in general is like everything is literally like our community. Like what do we genuinely actually have to offer? And it's so different than big corporate kind of, I don't know, there's in the higher input markets like California, you know, a lot of those wineries are owned by big corporations, and you just don't have as much leeway to do things that are quite as personal as the way that we are able to do them out here. When I came onto the company, I was like, yeah, I want to teach yoga. It's like, James was like, okay, like go for it. You know, there was literally no pushback on any of this stuff. We were just like, I think we should try to do this. And it's like, okay, well, if you're willing to like put in the elbow grease and we can find people in the community that are willing to support us, we can make it happen. And like, it's cool to see at the other wineries too, because, you know, people are like, oh, you guys are doing so much. Like, how can we do it? I'm like, well, you don't want to do what we're doing because you don't have Clint to do the sound, you know? Like, you don't have me who's like got a background in poetry and as a yoga teacher. Like, you want to talk to your team, see what they have to offer, and offer something unique that is genuine and authentic and is like really what you like, bring your own skill sets to the table. And that's what creates regional identity. That's what makes it so that when you stop and you actually get off the highway and drive through town here, you get to see what the people are actually like that live here. You know, it's not like we're not doing this to like, oh, we just want to make money. What other events can we do just to get people in the door? We're doing this because it's like, no, this is what we love. Like, we want to share what we love with other people, and over a glass of wine is the best way to do it.
As residents here, we just get to benefit from that, so it's great.
Yeah.
So going back to the concert series, though, so this weekend is the kickoff, the first event. The first event. Can you talk a little bit about the 4 concerts in the series and what's upcoming after this weekend? Yeah,
so this weekend is Bubbles and Blues. It is our annual event celebrating all things sparkling wine and blues music. We are so excited. We have Omar Coleman coming out from Chicago, Lightning Malcolm coming from Mississippi. And that's our kickoff. And then we have Midsummer Music Fest is June 21st, the third Saturday in June. And that's our like summer solstice celebration. So we have 3 bands, we have 2 food trucks, we have tiny tattoos, we have tarot card reading, we have like, it's like a full-on festival, which we're super excited about. And it's just like the fact that it's on summer solstice to like be in the vines at a music festival, just really celebrating summer. You know, summer is what we thrive on out here in Palisade, and it's we all just live for summer and nothing happens here in the winter. So we're really excited about that one. And then Harvest Harmonies is October 4th, the first Saturday in October, and that's definitely our celebration of harvest. And it's always a little bit folksy kind of music. We have an Irish musician coming out to play for that one, which is going to be really cool. And that one is also so nice because it's a little bit cooler. Things cool down a little bit in October, and we're really looking forward to that. And then the last concert of the season is our Rave to the Grave. Is our costumes mandatory 21 and up Halloween party, the place to be for Halloween in the Grand Valley. That was something that Clint and I were both like, you know, coming from California and moving out here, there's really not like an adult Halloween thing out here anywhere. And I love Halloween. It's like my favorite thing ever. And I think just like being outside and like, you know, in this like kind of agricultural area also like speaks to that Halloween vibe, you know? And so we're really excited about that. And then the whole concert series, all 4 concerts are sponsors of D51 Foundation, which is our local nonprofit that supports education and learning here in District 51. So a portion of every ticket sold goes to D51 Foundation, and then we're going to be doing like a raffle and like a little extra bonus stuff at the Rave to the Grave also, because like I said, we can't afford to do this stuff on our own, and at the same time we're not, you don't get rich in this industry. That's not our goal. We are trying to support the community and bring as many like-minded people into that goal as possible and see like how far we can spread the good, you know? Like if you're the person that's sitting there enjoying the concert and drinking wine, like that's a win for us. If you're the artist who's getting paid to, you know, pay your rent with your rock, that's awesome for us. If you're our employees who are able to like have a sustainable job in the Grand Valley, which, you know, 20 years ago was not a thing, like that's a win. And then if we can like pay that forward to support education for, you know, the next generation, it's like we're trying to hit on every level here so that you can like have an amazing concert, go out and enjoy it, and then also feel like you're doing something good for the community. And that's whether you live here or not, you know? You get to feel like, hey, it's summer solstice. I want to go get a tiny tattoo and shake my booty to some amazing music, and also I'm helping the world. You know?
It's a win-win all around.
Yeah, it's a win-win all around. Exactly. I just hope that people recognize that like we're doing all of this for more than just us. You know, I think that's the most important thing to me, and what I love about working at Carboy is like this is a benefit. And I think most of the other wineries are doing stuff like this too, where like this is a different wine country than Napa. We will never be rich, famous, $3,500 a bottle wine country. And that's a good thing, because we want to be authentic, real people working at our passion place. And I think that's what's so cool and unique about Palisade, and what's cool about Carboy is like we are authentically doing what we love, and we hope other people love it too.
I love that. So then in closing, I just want to ask, what's your favorite post-shift drink? What's your go-to?
I'm a bubbles girl through and through. Right now it's probably the Native Fizz Rosé.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Pet Nat Rosé. It's amazing. Yeah, and my go-to that usually the bottle that I bring home is the Grand Blanc de Blanc. If I'm going to bring a bottle home with me, I just love sparkling wine. It's really hard for me to turn it down. That or whatever's left at the end of the bottle. So, you know, I can take one for the team and drink that last 4 ounces of anything that's left in the bottle.
It's the best. Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
and
thank you for having me.
This was just really fun for me to learn about one of my favorite places. So
I love that. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for being a sponsor for the concerts. Like I said, we couldn't do this without you guys. So we're so grateful for your support.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So, as I mentioned, Barbie and I chatted right before the May 24th Bubbles and Blues kickoff of the Carboy concert series. It was fantastic. Regular podcast listeners will remember that Carboy Stage is one of the former migrant farm worker cabins that used to dot Riverbend Park. Joanne Rasmussen talked about those cabins in episode 39. Check that one out if you haven't already, to learn all about Palisade's migrant and seasonal farm workers of the past. But back to the concert series. The podcast is a sponsor of this series because I, like Barbie, believe that art and culture are a driver of regional identity. In a region that embraces and provides the wide perspective of art, music, ideas, food, and so on and so on, That's what I want to see here too. So if you missed last weekend's concert, check out one of their upcoming shows. Tickets are available at carboywinery.com. The podcast theme music is Riverbend by Jeff Roper. Thanks for listening. With love from Palisade.